Hello. I wanted to share something with you. I went to an event yesterday. It was called Forecast 2025, and it was done by our MLS. There were two economists there, one from Texas A&M and one from the National Association of Realtors. Now, before your eyes start to glaze over when you hear the word economist, I have one interesting slide I wanted to share with you, at least the information from it. And it was the difference between wealth, between owning a home and being a renter. And the difference in wealth, and this is actual wealth in 2022, was 396,000 if you were a homeowner and $10,000 if you were a renter. Now remember, these are just median average prices. So you've heard me talk about generational wealth. So I wanted to share something from my own experience with you, a personal story. My family moved to the United States in 1974. So I am not only an immigrant, I'm also the child of immigrants. We came from a country called Sri Lanka and we weren't able to bring much. And as a lot of immigrants do, we lived with my aunt and uncle in their basement for the first few months of our time in Portland. That wasn't going to make my parents happy, and so my dad looked for a home for us to move into. But we did not rent a home. Dad purchased a home for us. The home he purchased was a single family. It was a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage in Southeast Portland. But it had a unique feature of having an apartment, a 1 bedroom apartment that had been built onto the back of the house. So you may have heard me talk about, maybe investing in a duplex as your first home. But in this case, Dad bought something that had income producing property with it. So there was some money to help, right? So that was their first home in Portland and my first home in Portland. Over the time that Mom and Dad lived in Portland, they had 3 homes in the Portland area, and they have now moved to Texas, and Mom and Dad own a home here. In the time that Mom and Dad lived in Portland, they bought rental houses, which they sold, and using a 1031 exchange, they reinvested that money into homes in Texas. So we can talk about 1031 exchanges another day. But the reason I'm sharing this with you is you need to get started. You need to get started with your first home. The other slide that they showed that was kind of interesting, which I did not take a picture of, was historically what interest rates look like. And I know coming out of a time when we had 2 to 4% interest rates, 6% seems high, but historically speaking, 6% is not a bad interest rate. So those are some things to think about in just getting started. The other thing I wanted to share with you is, though I really believe if you can buy a home, you should. But I also think that there will always be people who want to rent houses. So the other side of looking at this is, if you are sitting with a home that has lots of equity in it, why not take some of that equity and buy a single family rent house? The equity that's in your primary residence is really doing nothing at the moment. Whereas if you take that equity and reinvest it in a single family home, and I understand it's going to cost you something to buy that house, I understand that there is interest tied to that, but you also will have rental income. You also have another asset that will increase over time. So this is a couple of things to think about. One, if you're a one, if you are a first-time home buyer, investing in a home, either a duplex or a single family home. And the second thing is, if you already own a home, think about buying a second home to rent out. Here again, we're talking about generational wealth. I am here. I'm happy to be a resource if you have any questions as you're going through and just kind of thinking about this. There's absolutely no obligation. I'm happy to talk you through the process. I hope this is helpful. Talk to you soon.